Alright, so what we've got here is the VH7, which is the earlier version of the obviously VH7A, which I showed the last time. And they're pretty much the same thing. This is a simpler design. It's missing the safety that the other one would have. And it's a little less, I guess, well built. It's cheaper built, I guess it would be. So, got the front end here. It doesn't have a cap, and it goes right through to the end. It's less like a real RPG round than the later model. This one was in, well, this one here is from 1965. The other one I have is a 1968. And you could see that that one there, as I said, since it is the next model over, they made it safer. They put more quality into it, so you could unscrew the back end to make it seem like you're actually installing the expelling charge. This one here is really just installing the gun and, well, in the RPG and pretend that you're firing the actual round. So once again, it's a Subcal. It's the first of the kind that uses the 7.62x39. In this case, a special tracer round. They match the trajectory of the, I'll pull this off. So it's got holes in it, and cap doesn't have an actual cap to put on. And the barrel's right there. Adjusted, I assume, at factory, not to be adjusted while you're using it. And yeah, pretty basic for that. As I was saying, it's the first one to use a 7.62x39. There was a version before this one, which would be interesting to find too, but I don't think I'll ever find that one there or the ammo for it. But it basically follows the old German trainer for the Panzerfaust, which this was basically two cartridges stuck together end to end with a special little zinc piece in the middle and a primer that went down between those two cartridges. One was a blank that fired backwards to make a smoke charge, and there was a tracer, I think, that was in the front. Anyways, that would be cool to have, but this one here, like I said, it's a simplified version using just standard ammunition so that it made it easier for training purposes. Didn't need anything special for it. Alright, so getting on to how this thing works. If you remember the other one, you have to push a button, twist it, and pull. So it's a bayonet style loading system. This one here is much simpler. You see the spring that's here? You just have to force this sideways and the whole thing pops open. So you have a locking mechanism here. That's a firing pin. Well, the FOS firing pin, I guess it would be, because that's what interacts with the firing pin on the RPG, and then it transfers into a sear that you'll see after. Anyways, so to open this, to load it or unload it, you just have to push in like that, so it unlocks, and that's your locking surface in there. On this side, you have the surface you slide it around into, and then to close it, you just push, and it locks into place. When you're loading into the tube, you have to hold on to here, because if you don't and you put in the tube, obviously you're going to have a problem with it popping open if you put any angle on it. So slid it until it gets to the point where it can't bend anymore. Very simple. Once it's cocked like that or loaded like that, you could just take anything that will fit here, and when you push the button, you'll hear it fire. Assuming I cocked it. There you go. So that's how it's fired. Taking it apart for cleaning, As you saw, the front piece comes off. You have a screw in here like this. Just had to turn about 180 degrees. There's a flat spot where there's no, basically there's a pin that goes through here. I'll try to bring it closer so you can see. Pin goes through there, screw, flat spot cut off of the screw at the bottom here. So when you turn it, the pin no longer holds it, screw pops up, and you should be able to pull the screw out at this point, like that. And this whole thing will slide off now. Basically just a barrel that's left here. It's going to be hard to show. I don't think I'll be able to. It would be nice to, but while we're at it, inside there, the other newer version of this had deep rifling to let the gases bleed past the round, which slowed it down enough to match the trajectory of the RPG round, so you could use the actual sights and everything and practice that way. This one here, instead of doing that, just in front of the chamber, you have a whole bunch of cuts in between the rifling. So on the grooves of the rifling, there's a bunch of cuts. Works the same way. It's not very long, but all the gases bleed around that, and it slows down the projectile a bit. The rest of it's an actual regular barrel, so there's no problem with that there. I'll try to basically give you a view of this here now. Not much. You could pull it apart here, the final piece, so you could get the firing pin and that out just by knocking this pin out. I'll put in a little bit of a video of the reassembly of it, just so you can see how that works. Just because I don't want to take this apart again. The spring is pretty stout on there, so it's just a little bit of a pain to get it. But if you look here, you see the sear that you can push back. That sear will interact on the piece that's here, that's normally sitting like that. So it catches, and then the firing pin that you see there protruding will just push down the sear here once it's back, and allow it to slide underneath this piece here, which will then fire the round. Pulling it off, you'll see that you've got the ejector there on it, and it goes deep enough on here that it'll lock into place. Well, that it'll eject the round, as you see right there, through the front end. Extractors there, obviously. Everything else is like a regular gun. And yeah, that's the basics of it. I can put it back together. Not very difficult again. You just have to take the whole thing. It should slide into this spot here. Lower this so that it goes between the barrel. And then you could close this. And I should have a spot where I could put the screw right through. I may have to loosen it. Obviously it's, there you go. Now it's in place, you just have to, hopefully I put it in the right place, but you take it around and then it'll click into its little spot there. And now it's back together. So there it is, the piece is back in place. So now you can feel tension, and that's basically how it goes back together. As I said, this is the earlier version, so finally I found one. I've been looking for it since I found out that it existed, actually. And as you see, much simpler, less machining on it, and works just the same way as the other one does. There's one thing I do want to ask anyone who knows. KT65 is written on here. It's upside down for you guys, but I'll try to flip it over here. So it's KT65. I know the factory code on the other one was an actual factory code in Czechoslovakia. This one here, I don't know. It's a 2-digit code, so I'm assuming it's a factory code, but I don't know which one it would be because of the fact that most factory codes, like the German ones, were 3-letter. This one here doesn't seem to show up anywhere. I say Czechoslovakia again. It's got the same cross swords as the later version, and it's got the T inside the circle as a proof mark for it. Seems to be all matching. It's a little bit beaten up. Probably been used quite a bit, this one here. So, like I said, in this case, what I'll do is I'll just go to the next, well, to the video of me putting back together the inner parts of it, so you can watch that, and then there's nothing much else to do except finish up the video. Alright, so I'll see if I can do this quickly enough. I've only got a few minutes, but I'm going to try to put this back together for you guys to enjoy. Laughing at me get injured probably. That through there. With the sear facing this way. That's back in. Force that in. This is going to be a fun part because that spring is a real pain to get lined up. Use my knee a bit. There you go. That's in. Anyways, I hope you guys like that. It is not too difficult to put together and take apart this thing here. It's just that you're up against spring tension quite a bit, as you saw. So I cleaned it, and I'm happy with the way it cleaned off. There was a lot of cosmoline in it, so now that that's gone, I don't really have to take it apart too much. Anyways, if you guys have any questions, comments, just leave them in the bottom. And if you have any information you could add to this, I'm always happy to hear from somebody who's either used them or knows more about them than me, which in this case doesn't take too much. I had a manual for it somewhere, but I cannot for the life of me find it. So that was for the 7A. This one here is earlier, but anyways. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got to see another interesting little trainer. And thanks for watching.